Welcome back. What a week it has been. Certainly no shortage of big news stories. There have been more developments following recent arrests, court appearances, the Asset Forfeiture Unit attaching assets in the Free State 255 million rand asbestos case. In addition, the name of ANC Secretary-General Ace Magashule seems continually associated with the chronicles surrounding the story. In another development, the DA said it would refer Julius Malema and EFF Member of Parliament Nazir Paulson to Parliament's Ethics Committee for their social media post of a machine gun with the caption, "Get ready." Now, this followed violence by a group of farmers at the Senekal Magistrates Court in the Free State, where two murder accused appeared in connection with a farmer's murder. And now, Parliament is calling for a further investigation on the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure Minister, Patricia Lille, for her role in the Beitbridge border fence saga, costing the taxpayer 21 million rand. Well, political analyst Prince Mashele is with us to unpack some of the week's top stories. Prince, great to have you. Nice to see you again.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Good morning to you and to the viewers at home.
So let's start somewhere, because there has been so many things that are happening. Let's start on the asbestos case, the VBS arrests and the KwaZulu-Natal former police commissioner, Monyo Ngubeni, appearing before the court in a case that pretty much so goes back to 2010. The police accommodation are seen as the biggest arrest recently. Is this something to celebrate, or South Africans are just desperate for any action at this stage?
Well, I think it is a sign of something positive. We come from an era where criminals who had political connections were untouchables. So society knew that so-and-so is a criminal, they are stealing money, but because they are connected politically, and let's be honest about it, connected to the ruling party, the African National Congress, they would not be arrested. So this flurry of arrests that we have been witnessing recently is a sign that our law enforcement agencies feel that their wings have been unclipped by the current leadership of the country under Cyril Ramaphosa. And they are testing waters. It will depend on whether or not they are stopped or not. If they are not stopped, I think we should expect more arrests, and that may go a long way to restoring the integrity of our law enforcement agencies. I'm saying it's a sign because there is a possibility that they could be stopped.
Now, I want to look a little bit further into that, because, I mean, possibly the huge story to come out this week, which, you know, is still something that everybody's asking, is it true? Isn't it true? Is there a warrant? Isn't there a warrant? What is going on? Is this planned to test the waters to see if, in fact, there is one? And I think you know who I'm talking about. That, of course, is Ace Magashule. Then we've seen protests that were happening. This was yesterday in the Free State. If anything should happen to Ace Magashule, what did you make of all of that? I mean, do you think there was any truth to that?
Look, there are all manner of possibilities, but let's deal with what we know. What we know is this, is that there is a mountain of evidence that Ace Magashule is a criminal. And I'm not making up this stuff. It's contained in an extensive book, Gangster State. That evidence is damning. It points to Ace Magashule's involvement in corruption and criminality while he was premier of the Free State. So that we know. Now, what we also know is that for so many years under Zuma, Ace Magashule was protected. He could not be arrested. He could not be touched. Now, most South Africans are not encouraged by the recent arrests that we've been witnessing, because if you look at those arrests, there are no big fish. So when the news broke that there is a warrant of arrest for Ace Magashule, South Africans set up and said, aha, we will now see if the law enforcement agencies have the spine to go for the big fish. So possibly there could be an arrest warrant. If it exists, I think that warrant would be warranted, because we know that there is evidence that this man has committed crime. With regard to the leaks or the announcement by the media, the media may be used by authorities to test waters in terms of how would South Africans react if they were to arrest Ace Magashule. That's one possibility. The other possibility it could be that Ace Magashule himself has been interviewed by the Hawks. So he expects that he's going to be arrested, given that his friends in crime have already been arrested. So he leaks this in order for him to create a political climate that when it happens, then he has prepared his supporters to react and say, aha, they have been hunting down our leader. So I think there are possibilities. My sense is that Ace Magashule is playing a game here, and he is already weaving a victimhood strategy, the kind of strategy that was used by Jacob Zuma years ago.
And this is something that's at play, something we're waiting for developments on. We heard, this news on Tuesday night, and ever since there's been so much reaction and people questioning, as you say, the use of the media in all of this. Is there a warrant or not? But nobody can actually answer this question factually. It's a difficult one, and one that is, as you say, testing the waters, but those waters aren't looking too stable, are they? I mean, what is this telling us about what's going on in the ranks of the ANC and these major divisions?
Look, I want to clarify this. Please allow me, the media thing. And you see, we have seen this over and over again. South Africans must be very careful. When there are allegations that someone has committed corruption, we are made to chase ghosts, things that don't exist. So the spotlight here is being turned on the media, so that the media is demonized. There is strategy on the part of the politicians who are doing it, and in particular Ace Magashule here, is for us to forget the real stuff. Here, let's clarify. There are no allegations that the media has stolen money in the Free State. So why are we spending time focusing on what the media is saying or what the media is not saying? That's not the issue. The issue here, there are allegations that Ace Magashule has stolen money on the Free State. So let's leave the media and focus on Ace Magashule, the alleged criminal. So that's the first thing. Let me answer the question you are raising with regard to divisions in the ANC. Quite clearly, the ANC is a divided party. And we have known from Nasrec that the ANC had two factions. And the outcomes of those elections at Nasrec actually produced a stalemate. One component led by Cyril Ramaphosa, the other Jacob Zuma, Nkosazana and Dlamini Zuma component led by Ace Magashule went into Lille House. And these two factions have never trusted each other from day one. So when they have official meetings in Lille House, by the way, those meetings are not the real meetings. The real meetings happen before they go to the official meetings in Lille House. They go into their factions, they plot against each other, and they say, okay, you go to Lille House and play the game. So the ANC is not a united party. It has not been a united party since Nasrec. So we must expect that when there are allegations of corruption involving the Secretary-General of the ANC, there will be a faction that would like to see him arrested as in yesterday. But there will also be a faction within the ANC that would want to see him stay out of jail. So we will see this thing playing itself out. Others will mobilize in the name of Ace Magashule. Others will condemn those who are mobilizing. So the ANC is a highly fractured organization and is going to get messy as we go forward.
Yeah, interesting analysis there, Prince. Always interesting listening to you. Now, I want to move on to the Senekal farm murder case, that farm manager murder case, which it really turned violent, with some farmers demanding the accused be handed over to them. We saw arrests being made with damage to property, police vehicles being burnt, and huge reaction to this one. What is your opinion of their narrative that farm murders aren't given the necessary attention, and what unfolded in Senekal this week?
Well, in the first place, the murder of any human being anywhere in the world, and in particular in South Africa, must be condemned. Whether such a person is a farmer or is a political analyst or a journalist, whoever it is, as long as that person is a human being, must not be murdered, especially in a country where there is a rule of law, such as South Africa. So I think that's the starting point for all reasonable South Africans. Now, the idea that farm murders are not being prioritized is actually incorrect. Anybody who is making such a claim will actually not produce evidence to support such a claim. If you look at murder in South Africa, you will actually find that farm murders are a tiny fraction of murder as a category of crime in South Africa. And in the main, the crime spots where, the worst areas affected by murder are black townships. So it is actually black people killing each other in their own townships. So murder, you cannot argue that farm murders are not prioritized. So I think we need to clarify that point. But number two, it's important for farmers not to take the law into their hands. I mean, in the case that we're dealing with here, the alleged criminals are behind bars. They have been arrested. So what more must the state do? The state, when someone has committed crime, you get arrested, you appear in court, the judge finds or the magistrate finds against you, you go to jail. That is the normal course of the law. And in this case, that is taking place. So it is completely unacceptable for farmers to mobilize and go and disrupt court proceedings and turn over police vehicles and so on. The last point I want to make is this. Is the statement made by Julius Malima to try and take advantage of this and incite violence. That too must be condemned. There is no room, and there must be no room in South Africa for political entrepreneurs who are irresponsible, such as Julius Malima, to use crime to mobilize supporters and fan racial tensions. That must be condemned. Julius Malima, in my view, by the way, and I don't apologize, is the most dangerous politician in South Africa today. And South Africans must actually state it as it is, and they must face it. It's very dangerous.
Why, Prince? Why do you say that about Julius Malema?
No, look at the method of his politics, right? When there is an advert, a racist advert by clicks, what does he do? He says, fighters attack, right? And what do you do following that? What do you see following that? You see mobs of EFF members going into stores, smashing windows. That kind of politics is totally unacceptable in a constitutional state. And you see, we must not allow ourselves as a society to be intimidated by Julius Malema. We really have to call him out. So he is dangerous because he uses violent methods. There's absolutely nothing in mobilizing your supporters. But for as long as you use violence, you are a dangerous politician. And I actually don't see any other politician in South Africa today who uses violence as a method of politics. It's Julius Malema who does it.
Yeah. I mean, Prince, many would argue that somebody like Julius Malema actually gives a voice to the voiceless, and that many of these issues that have been plaguing South African society for so long, and of course this does boil down to a very big race issue, because I mean what we see playing out in Senegal has gone into a race issue, whether we like it or not, and some welcome the voice of Julius Malema. Obviously, others don't welcome it. But, I mean, can you see their point where they feel that finally someone is standing up for what they believe is right?
No, here's the thing about Julius Malema, by the way. He is not blacker than all of us, right? So this idea that he represents black people, the voice of black people, it's absolute nonsense. The majority of black people don't think and feel the way Julius Malema thinks and feels. Even as they condemn racism, and I do condemn racism myself, and I've condemned it many times, they actually don't believe that you need to solve the problem by violence. So Julius Malema represents a tiny fraction of hooligans in society. And those hooligans must be called out, and they must be called what they are. They are hooligans. If that is how we are going to solve problems that affect our society, South Africa is going to go up in smokes, because if Julius Malema does that, he calls his supporters to attack, right? They attack. And then there will be another group that will call its supporters to attack. And then there will be my group that I'm going to call to attack. What kind of society will that be? We are not going to have peace. So what I'm saying is, whether what he stands for is legitimate or not, he has no right to call for violence.
Prince, let's move to another issue. Your opinion regarding another letter from former President Jacob Zuma accusing the Zondo Commission of abusing state resources for a political agenda, and also saying that Justice Zondo is just not the man for the job, and he is too biased when it comes to former President Jacob Zuma. What are your views here?
Well, I don't know the basis on which Jacob Zuma claims that Judge Zondo is biased against him. So he hasn't quite detailed what that is. All he's doing is throwing a blanket of suspicion over the judge, but he doesn't produce concrete evidence. What I know is this, and South Africa knows this, is that there are loads and loads of allegations and evidence that under Jacob Zuma as president of South Africa, the South African state was criminalized and captured by the Guptas and those who worked with them. That is not disputable. That evidence has already been placed before the Zeno Commission, but it has also been placed before the public through other means, including the Gupta leaks. So that's number one. Number two, what we also know is that Jacob Zuma did appear before the Zeno Commission. And when he appeared, he actually projected himself as a clown. Instead of making a sound case, legal case to prove that the state was not captured, he went back to years during exile and accused all manner of people being spies and having been used by the apartheid regime back during apartheid. And he claimed to forget things that happened very recently. Number three, Jacob Zuma, as we speak, is facing a criminal case relating to the conviction that was made against Shabir Sheikh years ago. So this is a man who is seriously compromised, who is very dodgy. So whatever he says against a judge, I am tempted to trust a judge than trusting Jacob Zuma.
All right. First time, I need to move on to the next issue that came out this week, and that, of course, is this speaking about, once again, that Beitbridge border fence issue. And for the very first time, we actually heard from Defence Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula basically just saying that it's clear that this whole fence thing is a disaster. I mean, to cut it very short, it hasn't worked, it will never work, and it doesn't matter the quality of the fence we put up, which left a lot of questions in my mind. I mean, that I wasn't sure was the response we were looking for. But Parliament want to further investigate the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure Minister, Patricia de Lille, for her role in the Beitbridge border fence case. I mean, what's going on here? Let's see there.
It's a mess. It's a clear case of lack of leadership on the part of President Cyril Ramaphosa, period. How? Here's the thing. When you have a national disaster such as the COVID-19, and it has been declared as such by the president. As a president, you instruct your ministers to do certain things in response to the pandemic, and he has done so. And then there is a big scandal of corruption involving one of your ministers. What do you do as a president? You investigate that quickly. By the way, the method of investigation doesn't have to be public as a president, because the president has instruments, including intelligence, including the police, and so on. So my sense is there is absolutely no need for this whole thing to drag on and on. Cyril Ramaphosa, as we speak, knows exactly what happened with regard to that border fence. The question is, why are heads not rolling? If there is, and the person who's responsible, by the way, who's answerable to the president, is the Minister of Public Works, Patricia de Lille. If she has done something wrong, Cyril Ramaphosa by now would know. And the fact that she's still in her office means that there's lack of leadership on the part of Cyril Ramaphosa. Mapisa Ngakula also, by the way, went to Zimbabwe using a military plane in a very dodgy arrangements. She's still there in the office. I don't even take her comments very seriously, by the way, because herself was embroiled in controversy. So the thing, what we are seeing about Ramaphosa is that he doesn't act against his ministers when there's wrongdoing. He lets the ball roll down the road.
I mean, and there's so many accusations leveled against his ministers. And I mean, that big one about the trip to Zimbabwe still hanging over. And I mean, the president said in a statement he was aware of the trip, just wasn't aware of who was on the plane and all of the other people going on this trip. But this is just... there is a lack, what appears to be a very big lack of accountability for anybody, because it just seems to be carrying on and nobody is being held accountable at the top level. And that goes back to that first question. Do we really have anything to celebrate this week where we've seen so many people being arrested and yet the big players continue to sit in their positions very comfortably?
Look, there's one thing that we know about President Ramaphosa as a leader is that he lies, period. He lied in Parliament a year or so ago about the Bosasa thing, right? And he said he saw a contract between his son and Bosasa. It turned out that was a lie. He even apologized in Parliament. So he lies. Number two, with the Zimbabwe thing, he also lied. When it surfaced, he pretended as if he didn't know, and then he asked the defense minister to write a report. It turned out that he actually knew. It is a lie that he did not know that his comrades, Ace Magashule and them, did not actually use that plane, because there was a resolution of the ANC that they must go to Zimbabwe. And he knew that to do that, they needed to be assisted. So he actually lied to us as a nation. So the last point I want to make is that he is not a decisive leader. He doesn't take action when there are problems. He just lets the thing roll on and on and on, which is why you are right to ask whether we should celebrate about the arrest and so on. Ultimately, will big politicians who have committed crime go to jail? Will we see them in orange uniform? That's the test. So far, we haven't seen anything like that, and therefore we have no basis to believe that we are actually South Africa in the hands of Cyril Ramaphosa is in good hands.
Prince Mashele, thanks so much for your analysis here this morning, and lots of response coming through for that. Some agreeing with Prince, some absolutely disagreeing. Looking forward to reading those. Thanks again, Prince. Right, we've just gone after 7 o'clock. Let's get your latest news.